Name the ordered pairs that represent the endpoints of the two line segments that run parallel to one another in the trapezoid. Remember that parallel lines are equal distance from each other and never touch. So line segment A to B from point 2, 5, so 2, 5 to point 5, 5 is parallel to line segment CD, the point 1, 3 to the point 6, 3. Determine how many spaces are traveled on the yellow path from point A to point B on the coordinate plane. From point A, we move right along the axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Then up along the y-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to reach point B, for a total traveled distance of 10. Describe the location of point T in 3 different ways. The first way is naming its point, 4, 6. The x-coordinate is a distance of 4 from the y-axis and a distance of 6 from the x-axis. Point T is 4 units to the right of the origin on the x-axis and 6 units up from the origin on the y-axis. So just different way of explaining how to get to the same location. Interpret the values of point A and point B. If I take a look at my x-axis, this talks about the number of weeks. On the y-axis, this is the number of books checked out. So point A represents that during week 2, there were 75 books checked out at the library. During week 7, there were 100 books checked out at the library. Interpret the values of point A and B. Give it a try. The x-axis represents the number of days. The y-axis represents the number of brownies sold. Point A represents on the 3rd day, 50 brownies were sold. Point B represents on the 8th day, 70 brownies were sold. We can interpret coordinate values of points in the coordinate plane. Use the table to answer the questions. I have some data on the female giant panda growth, and I have a chart down here. Years is on the x-axis. Y represents the weight. Graph the corresponding points and see what you discover about female giant pandas. Connect the points in the order they are given to form a line graph. What does the point 0 years, 1 kilogram mean for a typical female giant panda's weight? So I have the arrow pointing there. So when female giant pandas are newborns, they weigh 1 kilogram. How heavy do you think a typical giant panda will get, and why? Up above, I have circled in red, or put a square on red, that the graph shows that female pandas reach a weight of 100 kilograms. And because none of the points given have a larger value than 100, we can assume that they typically weigh about 100 kilograms. At what age do female giant pandas reach their full weight? How does the graph show that? This time I'm going to refer down to the years. Female giant pandas appear to stop gaining weight at 5 years old. Therefore, the female giant panda's weight stays the same at 100 kilograms. Decide whether each of these statements is always, sometimes, or never true. If it is sometimes true, draw and describe a figure for which the statement is true and another figure for which the statement is not true. A rhombus is a square. This is sometimes true. It is true when a rhombus has 4 right angles. It is not true when a rhombus does not have any right angles, because a square must have 4 right angles. So on the left is a picture of a rhombus, on the right is not a rhombus. A triangle is a parallelogram. Never. A triangle we know is a three-sided figure, and a parallelogram is a four-sided figure with two sets of parallel lines. Since a triangle can never have four sides, it is never true. A square is a parallelogram. Always true. Squares are quadrilaterals with four congruent sides and four right angles. They also have two sets of parallel sides. A parallelogram are also quadrilaterals with two sets of parallel sides. Since squares must be quadrilaterals with two sets of parallel sides, then all squares are parallelograms. A square is a rhombus, so the opposite of A. Always true. Squares are quadrilaterals with four congruent sides. Rhombuses are also quadrilaterals with four congruent sides. Squares are by definition also rhombuses. A parallelogram is sometimes a rectangle. It is true when the parallelogram has four right angles. It is not true when a parallelogram has no right angles. A rectangle must have four right angles. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Always true. Trapezoids must have four sides, and that is the only condition to be a quadrilateral, so they must always be quadrilaterals. The picture below is called a Venn diagram. Each circle, A, B, and C, so the pink, blue, and orange circle, contain shapes that share at least one characteristic. Some shapes are contained in more than one circle because they share more than one characteristic. Take a moment, stop the video, and see if you can identify what are the shared characteristics by shapes within circle A, the shapes that are shared within circle B, the characteristics shared within circle C, and where would you place a rectangle that does not have four sides of the same length, and why? When I look at those items in circle A, I see that they are all triangles. When I look at the items in circle B, I see that they at least have a right angle. When I look at letter C, I see that all of their sides have an equal length. And I would place a rectangle that does not have four sides of the same length into circle B. A rectangle without four equal sides must be placed in the circle for shapes with right angles. Since they don't have equal sides, it cannot go into C, and it's not a triangle, so it can't go in A. It also must not overlap any of the other sections, so it has to stay in the main blue area. Homework. Print the practice worksheets located in the practice homework Dropbox. Complete the worksheet problems as thoroughly as possible. Scan and upload your documents back into the practice homework Dropbox.